In 2012, in a lab at the University of British Columbia, a student sat down at a Ouija board opposite a woman he had never met. Both of them were blindfolded. 4 hands rested on the planchette. The experimenter read out a question with a factual answer. Is Buenos Aires the capital of Brazil? And the planchette began to move. What the student did not know was that the woman opposite had already slipped her blindfold off, lifted her hands clear, and was only pretending to play. There was nobody else on the board. Every answer came from him, and his answers got better. To understand why that matters, you have to know what the experiment was actually testing. Not spirits, memory. The researchers wanted a way to ask people questions they didn't know they knew the answer to. That sounds like a contradiction. It isn't. A great deal of what you have learned is stored somewhere you cannot deliberately reach. You can't retrieve it by trying, because trying is the wrong tool. So they gave each participant 96 general knowledge questions, yes or no. Were the 2000 Summer Olympics held in Sydney? After each one, participants said whether they knew the answer or were guessing. Then they did it again, blindfolded, on the board, with a partner who wasn't there. When people said they knew the answer, it made no real difference which way they gave it. When people said they were guessing, speaking got them 50%. That is chance. That is a coin. Through the planchette, the same people, on the same questions, reached 65%. 15 points out of nowhere. Except it wasn't nowhere. It was them. This is the ideomotor effect, and it is older than the Ouija board. In 1852, the physician William Carpenter described what he called ideomotor action. Muscles moving on an idea without the person deciding to move them. Not a trick, not a lie. A genuine movement the mind doesn't file as its own. A year later, Michael Faraday took it apart mechanically. Table turning was the craze of the decade. Sitters would rest their hands on a table, and the table would tilt and walk. Faraday built a small apparatus, 2 boards with glass rollers between them, held with rubber bands, and an upright straw as a pointer. If the table were moving the hands, the straw would lean one way. If the hands were moving the table, it would lean the other. It leaned the other way, every time. He published it in the Times in June 1853. The sitters were pushing. The sitters were also sincerely certain they weren't. So the skeptic's version, someone at the table is having you on, turns out to be wrong too. Nobody has to be lying for a Ouija board to work. The board does not need a ghost, and it does not need a liar. It needs a hand and a question. If the planchette is just your own muscles, it should be no better than your mouth. Same person, same memory, same question. It should be a coin. It wasn't a coin. Something in you had the answer and could not say it out loud and could move your hand. Now the honest part. 27 people took that test. 6 were dropped. 2 never produced any movement at all. 4 moved, but never landed on a readable yes or no. That leaves 21. It is a small study, and the researchers say so themselves. The effect varies a lot between people, and answers can take minutes to arrive. One result is not a settled fact. This is a strong hint, not a proof, and it has not been repeated at scale. But it points at something that is very well established on its own, that you know more than you can report, and that the part of you that knows is not always on speaking terms with the part of you that talks. The board was patented as a parlor game in 1891. It sold on the promise of a message from somewhere else. It does deliver a message from somewhere you can't reach. It's just that the somewhere is behind your own eyes. And the reason it feels like it's coming from outside you is that, in the only sense that matters to your own sense of yourself, it is.